Good afternoon, and welcome to the executive briefing for Oui Croissant. Moving into the agenda, we're going to start off with the introduction and the reassessment summary. Then, we're going to move into the recommendation section, and finally, we'll wrap up the presentation with a conclusion. Up first, we have our manager, Marshall and beside us, we have our senior consultants, Tanai Shaw and Maxwell Karen. Finally, we have our consultants, Ryan Miller, Luke Kimes, and me, Ryan Wong. Overall, our team discovered 24 different vulnerabilities, of which 8 were unique and newly identified during the reassessment engagement. Additionally, over 100 users potentially had their data exposed. As a result, our team has deemed Oui Croissant at critical risk of compromise, reputational damage, and financial loss.
Continuing with the reassessment summary, our engagement targeted the following 4 objectives: safety, security of the network and AI models, and the social engineering readiness of Oui Croissant. Regarding safety, our engagement was conducted with explicit approval and consent from Oui Croissant. We then tested the general security of Oui Croissant's network in accordance to security best practices and our ability to discover vulnerabilities. Additionally, we tested the AI models implemented by Oui Croissant and their ability to protect company secrets, including usernames and passwords. Lastly, we also conducted 2 social engineering assessments, including a phishing and an email phishing attack, in order to test Oui Croissant staff and their ability to defend against attacks. The scope of our engagement was strictly limited to the production and development networks of Oui Croissant, in addition to the Y application. In order to measure vulnerabilities discovered in our assessment, we implemented a custom matrix which takes into account the likelihood, which is how easy it is for an attacker to perform a certain exploit, and the impact, which is how much damage that exploit can cause, in order to determine an overall risk associated with each vulnerability, and that is displayed by the matrix here.
Moving on to risk trends. In this section, we will compare the amount of newly discovered vulnerabilities from this past weekend and rediscovered vulnerabilities from our initial assessment. Now, this data does not necessarily mean that Oui Croissant's security posture is weaker than our initial assessment, as we have reasons to believe some of these weaknesses existed back then. But with an increase in time, scope, and familiarity with the environment, we're able to uncover these vulnerabilities. Diving deeper, throughout all of the vulnerabilities present today, we identified a few key patterns that should be examined. First, a total of 9 access control misconfigurations were found, especially prevalent in Oui Croissant's Active Directory implementation. Second, a total of 3 systems had partial but improper patches for previously identified issues.
Next, we assessed Oui Croissant's residual risk by comparing previously known vulnerabilities with those found during this current engagement. During the November engagement, our team discovered 19 vulnerabilities. The majority of these vulnerabilities affected Oui Croissant's critical assets. These critical assets, such as the core network, along with components handling customer data, must be secure in order to ensure business runs smoothly. We expected the majority of these vulnerabilities to have been remediated by the time of this engagement. However, when we compared these vulnerabilities to what we discovered during our current engagement, our team discovered only 3 vulnerabilities had been addressed using proper remedial controls. Oui Croissant's residual risk remains largely similar to what we discovered during the November engagement. As such, Oui Croissant is only one mistake away from ransomware compromise. With the rise of ransomware within these recent years, Oui Croissant must be more prepared than ever to deal with such an attack. Ransomware compromise leads to public disclosure, and this public disclosure damages the trust between Oui Croissant and its Y users. Ultimately, as Oui Croissant is a social media company, trust is what ensures these users continue using the Y platform. By fixing these vulnerabilities, Oui Croissant can help ensure these users continue to use Y.
Our team was asked to assess some additional specialized threats. One of these threats was the security of potential AI integrations to Oui Croissant's business. In our initial assessment, we found that 3 out of 4 of the AI models supplied to us were able to be compromised, And in our follow-up reassessment to the updated models, we found that all 7 AIs were able to be compromised. So in this area, we found that security had not improved. We were additionally informed that some of these AI models were intended to possibly be used as potential password managers for the company. So at this state, we cannot recommend using that, and we recommend Oui Croissant sticks with utilizing existing enterprise password managers. Additionally, we recommend that Oui Croissant implements AI threat modeling to ensure the full scope of AI risk during development cycles. Oui Croissant was additionally concerned with social engineering attacks and employee vulnerability to them. In our initial assessment, we were able to successfully phish a Oui Croissant employee. However, in our follow-up reassessment, where we conducted both a voice phishing attack and an email phishing attack, we were not able to successfully compromise any Oui Croissant employees. So we commend Oui Croissant for implementing Windows Defender to help mitigate against potential phishing attacks.
All right. To now come full circle, we'll be talking about our recommendations, starting off with key strengths. Throughout our engagement with Oui Croissant, we observed social engineering resilience, exposed credential scanning software, and product containerization. We'd like to commend Oui Croissants for their efforts in these areas. In terms of areas of improvement, we recommend the following. First, our access controls. We recommend that Oui Croissant implement stricter access controls on their IT infrastructure, proprietary company data, and customer PII. Second, our proactive privilege audits, preventing against privilege escalation class attacks. Lastly is development security. Oui Croissant needs to ensure that software evaluations, security evaluations happen to mitigate against vulnerabilities before they have a chance to cause harm. In conclusion, Oui Croissant has made progress. However, there's still much work that needs to be done. AI threat modeling needs to drive AI innovation and engineering. Privilege auditing needs to become a regular practice, and Oui Croissant needs to take development security seriously, such that the Y platform is built secure by design. Thank you for your time. At this point, we'd like to open the floor to questions.
Yeah, thank you guys. Very, very interesting. So some of my team have been encouraging me to make sure that we're investing in a zero trust approach to the access control problems. So would you guys agree with that assessment?
I believe our team would agree with implementing a zero trust access policy, as implementing something or implementing a feature, or rather security feature like that, should increase Oui Croissant's overall security and thus benefiting the company.
Have you seen any best practices from other organizations here? I know you can't talk about the other organizations you work with, but have you seen any best practices around implementing zero trust?
When it comes to zero trust, we haven't seen a lot of implementation in our other engagements. However, the core principle behind access control violations and configurations has always been principle of least privilege. So in Oui Croissant's current state, that would be the recommendation that we make. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of experience with implementing zero trust, so we wouldn't be able to provide some examples.
Okay, that's fair. And also, I was interested, as you did the kind of the relative risk ranking, all right, that you were sharing earlier with the grid. You guys, do you have any clients that are using like more quantified risk models, like the open fair model?
While we don't personally have experience with a more quantitative model, we provide a custom heuristic matrix that is more qualitative, as we are not experienced enough to give a quantitative model. We would not like to provide our clients, especially Oui Croissant, with a model we are not familiar with.
Yeah, of course. No, that's good. That's fair. Team, anything else? Any other questions? All right, thanks for your time, guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.